step in. I mean, one thing I'll start by saying with that, which is, really, again, one of the incentives for us in starting First Artists here, but also we have plans to grow it, is the such demand for content and the fact that there's so much investment in it from multiple sources. And this is, Amazon, Netflix, HBO, all these big American players that are investing in European talent and European shows that are also focused on specific territories. When I say territories, individual countries, I guess, in Europe, but with an international outlook as well. And I think that's really can be the exciting part. And I think for, certainly for, let's say the Nordic, if that can be that project can be the thing that can really open you up to an international market. But if you do, a Dark or, one of these big series that is a European project that has massive appeal in the US, then that can be the thing that can really, bring, enter you to the American market. And I'll let Alexander and Sabrina talk about that in a bit. But in terms of, the opportunities, I mean, absolutely, there is a lot of stuff where the tax, the tax incentives for doing the post-production in a certain territory means that they have to hire a composer from that country. And that's something that, I'm increasingly encountering more on European projects. And to be honest, this is me being a Brit and basically telling you how stupid we are as a country. That is only going to increase with Brexit. A lot of the post-production houses are going to move into, that's traditionally been in London has been a very big hub. And of course, London will still be an important city, but a lot will move. And I've already heard of stories of some moving to the European countries. And so there will be more. I think the opportunities are only going to increase, is what I'm saying. And one other thing I'll say about the Nordics specifically is, this is me again being here in London. Is we've always had such a strong relationship with Nordics in music, in culture, in arts, and we are. There's a lot. There's been a lot of successful composers that have have come from the Nordics and songwriters and pop musicians, and that that often the UK has been the stepping stone into the global market. And I think that that is will always be there, and I think that gives a bit of a competitive advantage over many of the other European territories. And I think I mean we could talk about examples in a bit, but I think the language is also an important factor, and the fact that you guys all speak such great English really does mean that there is this common identity. And I think that when we're talking about putting forward composers for UK projects, and maybe these are UK projects that have a big wide international appeal, no one's ever going to kind of batter an eyelid if it's a composer from the Nordics. That's not going to, if you're right for the project, you will get that project. It's not going to hold you back. So I think that's, hopefully a bit of encouragement anyway. So I'll pass on to the other guys to talk about, more on the American side of things.
Sabrina, can I jump in here?
I just wanted to say, to echo what Hamish had said with regard to being really true to your sound and, identifying what that sound is. And there can really be a lot of temptation to really try to sound like, John Williams or Hildur or, fill in the blanks. And if that is, true to you and you're heading in that direction and that feels like, yes, this is me, it's still really important to find the thing that makes you uniquely you, because that's what is going to attract those filmmakers, those directors, those producers to you, is your sound. And so, I can't state that enough. And the by staying true to yourself, it also helps from veering, off in this direction and that direction. And before you know it, 5 years have gone by, 10 years have gone by, and you've done, a lot of everything and don't really know what it is that's you. And identifying that brand, but yet also staying somewhat flexible to explore things and ask yourself those questions. I think there's a real temptation to like hurry up and get to a certain point, right? Like I think people who are self-employed like you all are driven and motivated, and sometimes there's this kind of sense of I need to be here right now. And it is very much about the journey. And, you know, remember, this is a long game, you know, and to make smart decisions and, you know, surround yourself with people, even, you know, if you don't have an agent. I, as a business owner of a small business, had an informal board of directors, which is a handful of really smart friends who I would talk with about business decisions. And I think that's really an important thing to do. I'd love to have kick it over to Alex to talk about maybe, you know, Emily or, you know, some of our other folks who have made the jump.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I know Thomas had mentioned, like, you know, Hans Zimmer and that sort of thing. You know, I think for me, it's always important to remember there's one Hans Zimmer and there's one John Williams. And if you look at the other, you know, other people in our business, I think you usually see most composers that have had a really successful career usually have at least one really strong collaborator that is a repeat collaborator. And it's always hard for me to see a composer get an incredible opportunity, do a great job, and then that director or showrunner go on to use somebody else. So having some longevity to, you know, what you're doing, I think is incredibly helpful. And I also think, you know, Thomas mentioned talking about, you know, we've all been talking about finding your niche and finding your sound and staying true to that. You know, I don't think that necessarily means you have to do one thing and one thing only, but I do believe that, you know, if you're trying to build some sort of foundation for yourself, I think it's key to find, you know, to build your foundation that's true to yourself. And then once you build something up and you have multiple relationships, whether it's directors or producers, those people aren't going to stick and do the same exact thing all the time. So that, I think, is a lot easier to go laterally than it is to try to go up the action pole, up the drama pole, up the comedy pole all at the same time. So I think, you know, finding a great collaborator is key. And I think if you look at Carter Burwell, he's had the Coen brothers. If you look at Ewan Ekstrand, he's had Daniel Espinosa, who's now doing Plasma at Sony. So, you know, it's our job essentially, once these people, our clients, have these successes, to then create opportunities laterally and finding new directors, whether it's Martin McDonough for Carter Burwell or Todd Haynes. And for for Ewan Ekstrand, I think we're going to have a real opportunity to create new relationships for him with this Plasma film at Sony, obviously a big tentpole Marvel film. You know, as far as coming to LA goes, I think that's a tricky one. I think, you know, I don't necessarily think it matters a tremendous amount about where you are. I think the positives about either being in a city like London or LA is you have an opportunity to meet people face to face in a casual setting. And I think the cool part about being in LA, and I think the cool part about building a career in general, you just never know when it's going to happen. You never know who you're going to run into. You never know, you know, what music videos you're going to send out to somebody on the fly that responds to you and loves the music and all of a sudden wants to meet you. So I think that's the upside about being in LA, is you just have more of an opportunity to meet people that you wouldn't meet otherwise. And I'm forgetting my train of thought here, but yeah, I think in general, right now in particular, it doesn't matter that much because people aren't out socializing and events aren't happening. But I do think at some level it can be helpful, and it really depends what you want to do as well. If you're wanting to do, you know, like there's certain companies here in LA that pretty much want to have people here in LA. So if you're looking at big studio films, 95% of the time they want that person here in LA. Unless it's a very, you know, somebody who's tried and true and they're not going to be as concerned. But if you're an up and coming person who's director's first time, second time director on a studio film, they're going to want you in LA. And obviously that'd be a great problem to have. And I'd imagine most people would move to LA, at least for, you know, just for the film. But on the other side of that, I think, you know, there's a lot of people who move to LA, I think a little prematurely. Or move to LA thinking it's all going to happen in a year or two, and it doesn't. The reality is it's a competitive market. You've got a lot of composers here in LA. You've got a lot of directors and showrunners here in LA who already have their person. So I think the number one thing composers miss on is doing their own business development. And I tell all my clients, as much time as you're spending writing music, you need to be spending time looking at the next wave of filmmakers. Who is the next Steven Spielberg? Who are the next Coen brothers? They're out there. And I think being able to identify up and coming filmmakers before they get their big break is key to forging relationships before that person gets their big break. Because once the director gets their big break, they've got a manager, they've got 2 agents at CAA, they've got a lawyer, they've got a PR person. All of a sudden, the ego gets bigger. They've got a bigger, wall of defense around them. But for what I'm doing all the time is, okay, Sundance. Who won the grand jury Sundance Prize for short film? Who are the filmmakers coming out of USC and NYU Tisch and other great film schools that people are excited about? So that's the kind of early on business development that I'm thinking about, because again, it's a lot tougher to get to somebody once they break. But if you can be a director's person as they're doing their short films and winning short film prizes, well, that person's most likely going to get a feature opportunity. And if you're in the trenches with that person early on, you hope that person's going to be loyal and stick by your side and do that feature that all of a sudden is really good and gives you visibility and gives us something to work with, and hopefully the doors fly wide open.
Thank you, guys. Very valuable information. And we'll talk on Monday, also during the PR class, more about relationships, networking, collaborations, and also a bit about, what everyone just talked about, finding your voice as an artist. And it doesn't mean you're stuck there. As we grow as human beings, we also grow as artists and develop and add to it. But we'll talk more about that. I just want to go through the group now. So maybe if you want to quickly introduce yourself, a few sentences, 2-3 sentences about you, and then we'll do some more questions maybe from the group. And I'll just go by, through the group. So if you want to start, Marco, if you want to introduce yourself quickly, and you're all unmuted, so you have to. You're all muted, so you have to unmute yourself to introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Marco Nyberg, and I'm born and based in Helsinki. And I've been writing music for film, TV, and TV adverts for almost over 15 years. And I released 4 albums on a UK label called Catskills, and my band, or kind of moniker, is called Husky Rescue, and some of those songs has been seen for TV in UK and States also. And I will release some of my new music next year, and hopefully I get to tour also. Never know. Like it's really like all the possibilities were cancelled. I was meant to play some shows on September, but I'm actually constantly thinking that should I get a agent. I've been meeting also some agents in London. Some of your, like McManus and Ted, for example, in London. Yes. Nice meeting you.
Thank you, Marco. Lisa, you're next.
Hello. It's so very nice to see you, because I am connected with Vasi.
You are? How funny.
Yeah, and my old name was Holmqvist, so maybe you don't recognize, but it's so very, sure. Yeah. So I'm also, I have a group together also with Jon.
Yes,
so I spoke to him the other day, and he said he had dinner with you the other week. It's
yes,
it's fun.
We had a great dinner with him and Daniel as well.
Yeah, so it's so lovely to hear you tell me about First Artists. It's super great, and it's lovely for me to be here and be connected with people. This is why I'm here, and this time I have a special project also on top in mind, because I think America have a much bigger independent scene than Sweden. So I think that's why the beauty with America is that things that Europe think is too weird, they have a little bit more space sometimes in America because you are many people interested in film. So yeah, thank you. Ciao.
Thank you. Einar, hello.
Hi, I'm Einar Tryggvason from Reykjavik, Iceland. I've been a film and TV composer for just over 10 years. And in that time, I've mostly done a lot of short films, but in like the last 5-6 years, I've moved to full feature films and TV series, and I'm quite horror leaning. So hopefully I'm, gonna explore those waters even further.
Thank you, Einar. Sos Gunvar.
Hello, my name is Sus Gunvar Reibæk. I'm a Danish electronic composer and sound artist. And thank you so much for all this information. It's really great to hear what you're doing. I have a very broad international performance and production background. I have several releases under my own name. So what you're talking about in relation to finding your own characteristic sound, that's like something I really have, because I'm actually touring around the whole world, playing concerts. The last big show I did was actually in Manchester for FX Twin. I have also done multi-channel installations. I've done dance performances, theater performances, video games, and films. So maybe the most known video game I have worked on, which you might know, is a game called Inside from Playdead. I don't know if you're playing games, but it won a lot of awards around the world. And I was also nominated, for instance, for BAFTA for the music. And then I've done one feature film, which is a Danish catastrophe thriller. And I've also had nominations and won some awards for this. But I'm very excited to hear about your work, and I'm looking for management and also artist, film agents, I mean. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Frid and Frid Per, and I don't know if Carl is still here, how you want to do that.
Hi, I'm Per, and I work together with my brother Carl. We met with you, Alexander, a couple of years back. No, you're muted.
Oh, you look familiar.
Yeah, thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So we're based in Stockholm, and we've been working together for the last 10 years. We have produced music for about 25 feature films or TV series, mainly Swedish or Scandinavian. Or we've been nominated for a couple of prizes. I won a classical Grammy Award a couple of years back. We are quite diverse, me and Carl. I have a classical background, and I'm still writing a couple of pieces every year in that direction. And Carl has a background in jazz and pop music and so on. So we combine our skills together here in the studio in Stockholm. Yeah. We have a friend of ours who's a director. We did a film with him a couple of years back, and now he's shooting his first studio film in LA, or is it LA? But it's in US. So maybe we have something to talk about later about that. Yeah.
Sounds good. We'd love to chat about it.
Yeah.
Arto, hello.
Hello, my name is Arto Eriksen. I'm a Danish and Turkish composer. I'm 22 years old, living in Copenhagen. I grew up with a composer father, so I'm a born and bred musician, jazz musician and composer. And I've always been making music and playing loads of different instruments. And these last 4 years, I've been producing a lot of indie rock bands and electronic projects. But during the last year, I've been doing theater as well as film and TV. I ghostwrote a couple of episodes on the new Netflix series called Equinox, and also did some Danish national television. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here. It's really gold nuggets you're dropping. It's super informative. Yeah, thank you so much.
Nomsi, you're up next.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nomsi, and I am a singer-songwriter and a poet based in Oslo. Originally from South Africa. I've lived here for 16 years. I'm currently working on my debut album, and I released my first single under my own label last year, and that was to celebrate 7 years sober. And I'm very passionate and very curious also to bring visuals, bring my music and visuals together. So and I look forward to getting to know all of you better, and thank you so much for this opportunity to be here tonight. Thank you.
Salle, are you ready? You have to unmute.
It happens every time. Sorry. Hi, my name is Salla Luhtala. I'm from Helsinki, Finland. My background is in classical music. Before I was a film composer, I was a classical percussionist. I've been composing music for films for a bit over 6 years. I've composed for many feature documentaries, short films, and also commercials. My first feature fiction was premiered nationally here in Finland in 2019. It was a film based on the novel by Sofi Oksanen, a pretty famous writer. Yeah, when I started a bit more than 6 years ago, I just knew I wanted to compose for films, but I didn't know anything about the industry. I started completely from scratch. Now that I look back, I was pretty courageous to do that. I'm so happy to be here. Lots and lots of important information. Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Hallvardur.
Hello, my name is Hallvardur. I'm a composer from Iceland, and I write experimental atmospheric music. And I've written for several dance pieces, and I've written for a few films. I have 3 main collaborators, which is Grímur Hákonarson, who we did a lot of stuff together early on in his career. We actually did 2 documentaries together, and then a third one about a priest in the south of Iceland. And then there's a director called Richard Ramtjörn. We're actually doing a movie of his now as a live streaming performance. And then there's a choreographer I've done 4 pieces with called Sara Sigurdóttir. Yeah, and I do a lot of kind of guitar soundscapes and electronic music, and also music. I write for classical instruments, and I have a guitar I modified, which is called the Vardephone. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. And last but not least, Roy.
Hi guys, so nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for the insight. I don't know, do you see a big delay on my video or?
Nope.
No, fine, cool. Anyways, I'm Roy. I'm a composer from Oslo. I've been working full-time for 12 years now, scoring commercials, TV series, and 3 feature films. In 2014, I received the Gullruten, which kind of translates to the Norwegian Emmy, you call it, for best score for a television series. And right now I'm in a preliminary scoring phase of a documentary on espionage for the biggest broadcaster in Norway. And I have a science fiction comedy feature coming up next year. So I focus on pretty much orchestral, heavy melody-driven scoring. That's where I always find my, it feels like home for me. It's where I feel comfortable, and it's what I like to explore further and build my career upon. So, and thank you so much for everything. You know, it's a lot of insight and a lot of things to take in, and it's kind of changed my view on what an agent can mean for a composer. So I'm really excited about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Sabrina, Hamish, and Alex, do you guys have a few more minutes? Can we get a few more questions in from everyone? I know it's 10 o'clock, sure, but we have a little buffer until the next session. So yeah, I just want to open up to the group. If you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll call you out if there is questions. Salzgunda, yeah.
I'm curious to know when you work with the artists who are also touring, whether you will also be dealing with that kind of the booking, or the artist would have a separate booking agent?
Yeah, they would have a separate booking agent. So the live side we wouldn't get involved with. One thing I will say just on that, which is I guess an extension of what we sort of touched upon earlier, is, you know, the role of an agent. You know, we would fit into a team. So so a lot of the composers on our roster have artist managers, and they have live booking agents, and they're going on tour, and then we are, you know, essentially part of the team that covers their composition. And it can work really well when there's a team around the talent, all firing in the same direction, you know, to achieve the goal that they're trying to do. So I'm always encouraging of you know, certainly if a composer does have a commercial music element to what they do, like having the right specialist people in the right areas can only help enhance your career.
Arto, you have a question?
Yeah, I would just like to know how do you guys prefer that? How do you prefer to get in contact? How should I get in contact with you? Like, how do you prefer the demos? Is what I'm asking.
You know, Chandler and Thomas reached out yesterday about if we would be open to, you know, receiving emails, music, etc. I shared my email with them this morning, actually at the beginning of our call. So if you want to email me some music, you're welcome to. I would just say keep it between, if multiple people are going to email me music, keep it between 5 to 10 cues of what you know, your best tunes, and then ideally something I could stream would be great.
Yeah, I'll just second that. Streaming is definitely preferred to a download link. So, and also if there's any, just highlight any kind of key things that you're you know, either you know, some music that you're especially excited about, or a particular project that you're really excited about. Just, you know, a very short summary of the key points.
Cool. Thank
Yeah,
you so
and
much.
we'll talk a bit more about reels and submissions on Monday also. And then at the end of all sessions Monday, Katarina is sending a document to everyone with all the contacts. You know, I think you already have photos and biographies, but the contacts we'll share on Monday. Carl Fried, you had a question, I think, right?
Thanks, Thomas. Hi, guys. I'm the evil twin brother of Per, so that's, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate more on like how you present yourself and how you brand yourself. I mean, for us, we've always taken, you know, a big pride and joy of actually delving into new, you know, like each film has its own universe and each film needs its own, you know, musical language, whether it's genre-based or like electronical or classical, whatever. And that's, I mean, for us, at least, part of, you know, being a film musician or film scorer, film composer, to actually find that and, you know, sort of delve into that. And so that's sort of, at least in my head, you know, it makes it harder in a sense to brand yourself. I mean, I believe strongly that me and my brother, when we do stuff, we always have our sort of DNA in the music in a sense, but how can we brand ourselves when we, I mean, take last year for an instance, like we just finished, I mean, we just had the, we did a TV series based in the 80s, and we just, you know, did a score all 80s, created a lot of tracks and did that. And before that, we did a journalistic thriller with a symphony orchestra and choir and electronics, you know, and right now I'm working on opera with beats for another film. And it's, you know, that's sort of, for us, at least, you know, it's the joy of composing for film. And how do we brand that? That's my question.
I'll just made a couple of notes, so I'll start and then I'll pass on to my esteemed colleagues. But I think you know, there's almost, I look at it in two sort of different ways. It's almost like your public image that's sort of out there, and what you put out as yourself, i.e. your website, you know, your what music you've got up online. And I think for me, and this is the sort of, you know, a bit of advice that I sometimes give composers that are maybe quite diverse in the range of work that they do. It's, you know, what do you want to do? What are you trying to, what sort of projects do you want to get? And then put that out there as your main, you know, foot forward. Because, so this has happened a couple of times recently where I've been working with, I've taken on a composer who has had some amazing chops in the advertising world. So has like, you know, worked with some incredible directors and won awards and so forth, and has only done a little bit of long form, and came to me and was like, you know, I want to do feature films. And I'm, you know, so I go online, I look, and the website's just got advertising all over it. And I'm like, well, you know, if a director who's, you know, maybe comes across your site, is looking at composer options, and he just sees that you're just doing advertising, he might not think, oh, okay, you can do feature films. So it's like, well, let's rearrange your website. Let's get your focus work, you know, keep it short and concise. This is what you do at the forefront of it. So then when someone comes along and clicks on it, or here's your name and then goes to that site, you know, that's what they see. So that's kind of one area that I quite often like tell people, is just like focus on what you want to do, and then hopefully the work will come in.
Yeah, what image you want to project.
Yeah, you project. That's yeah, exactly.
It's important to have goals, like Hamish said. And, you know, even though it's like, okay, over here I'm going to do this, but, you know, I like to say play to your strengths. You know, if your strengths are that you're, you know, classically trained jazz artist, then play to those strengths. If your strengths are that you are a great electronic artist, you know, play to those strengths. And ultimately what you want to have happen 5, 10, 15 years down the road is a cohesion, you know, and something that people can say, you know, Carl Fried, I know him, this is what he does. And, you know, I'll use my own example. I've worked in, you know, post-production, I've worked in staffing, I've worked in PR, I've worked as an agent. The through line is that I'm a connector and I work with creative people and I sell. So those are the things that if people were to see my story, they're like, oh yeah, Sabrina, you know, this is what she does. So, you know, it's making sure that you, like Hamish said, think about what it is that you want to do. And sometimes you have to say no to things in order to keep that brand cohesive.
Yes, I think it's important to say no to things also. We started to say no to things the last couple of years. And I think even though you sometimes are in a position where you really need to get the job actually to pay the bills, but you know it might hurt you in the longer run because it's not the right project that you will have the right energy or passion for. I think it's important sometimes because other things would turn up. As you said, Alexander, before, you never know, you know, what projects will turn up.
I had someone call me yesterday, friend, and said, I just did this advert and I'm wondering if you think that I should maybe spend some money and hire a publicist and promote it. And I said, what is it that you want to be known for? What is it that you really want to do? Do you want to be known as a commercial composer? Or do you want to be known as a film composer? And he said, film and TV. I said, then save your money and focus on promoting your next film. And also your commercial was 6 months ago, so no one's going to care. Thomas, I love it.
Yeah, I was just going to add.
One thing that I'd like to add real quick, I think my colleagues touched on most of it, but I think there's two sides to the equation. One being, you know, your actual branding, whether it's your Instagram and Twitter and your website and how you present yourself out in the world. And I also think there's the other side of it, which is like the in-person branding. And I think that is key as well. And having just basics down as far as how you present yourself, how you deal with people. And I'm a firm believer that these small things go far. So that's like looking people in the eye and being a good communicator, being a fun hang, not being a drag. There's a lot of really talented composers who have worked with really talented directors one time. So I think it's super important to be known as somebody who's easy to work with, fun to work with, making it an enjoyable process. And I think there's certain composers out there like a Hans Zimmer or even a Desplat or Carter Burwell who make, you know, clearly they are good in the room. They make it an enjoyable experience for people, even under incredible pressure and crunch time. It's still enjoyable in some capacity, and that's why they get hired again. Not only do they deliver, but they make it a great process. So I think that's important to remember as well.
Yeah, we shall not forget that it's all collaboration. You know, filmmaking is teamwork, obviously, and the more of a team player you are, and the more the chances you get rehired, of course.
Right, and I think people are quick to forget it's not about your music. It's about the film. You are serving the film. You are serving the direction of the film. The more precious you are about your music, the harder it's going to be. So
exactly, but that sort of brings back the dilemma. If you've been working on very, you know, versatile projects, like whether it's jazz or it's like classical scores, like really minimalistic or whatever. I mean, we've done it all, and I mean, how do we brand that?
Yeah, well,
sorry, I have to call. I think we could have a great conversation. I get notices from the team that we've been 10 minutes over and we have the next session in 5 minutes, and I deprived you yesterday of all your tea sessions and coffee refills. I'm not doing that again. So I just want to say thank you, Sabrina, Hamish, and Alexander. This was valuable. This was great. We will send out your contact details. Thanks for taking the time early this morning and giving your insights, sharing what you do as agents, and also who you are as people. And it was very great, and I'm very thankful.
Thank you. If anybody has any, Alexander, if anybody has any other questions, if they want to email me, feel free to do so.
Great.
Thank
you.
And for everyone here, we'll keep the session open. Abel will be here in 5 minutes. And so take your break. I'll see you at 10:15 here, which is 19:15 in the Nordic countries. And again, thank you guys. Thanks for being with us.
See you later, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Now some power stretching, coffee, hoo, hoo, hoo. Keeping the energy up.
Hey Abel, how are you? Good morning.
Good, how are you?
Good. We just, sorry, we ran over the last, extended 10 minutes. So we just went on a break, but we'll be back. We'll be back in 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes. But I need to give everyone time to. May I introduce you to Katarina, who is just coming back?
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you